very often in houses, they search people in the streets to find what they're carrying, and if they find a boy carrying arms, he can be hung on the gallows. And we begged, let us also take part in fighting, but we've been refused because of our age. Then time passed, and you know what happened in Europe. 6 million of our people were annihilated in a terrible way. Masses of Jews were turned into ashes. Children's heads were blown on the walls by those European savage people, and when the war ended, we should know that this I would say Russia wickedness did not stop with the end of the war, with the defeat of the Germans. It continued to be after us until those days. In every news broadcast we hear the voices of hatred to Israel. But here, they won't be able to comment to us what they did in Europe. What? You know, there's one reason. You know what's the reason? Tzal, our army. If not for our army, the Arabs around and also within us would have long ago committed a Holocaust to the Jews here. But thanks God, we have Tzal. In Europe, there was no Tzal. And that's, we have to thank God that we have this army who enable us to continue to live. True, once in a while they murder. They do every effort to murder. And also this will come to an end by the hands of our army, Tzal. This you have to know, and if you're going to serve in the army, you should know that you're going to do the most important deed which enable us to continue to develop, to grow as a free nation. And you know, a small part of the Jews in Europe survive. What we call them the survivors. But in what state, after they lost all what they had, all their dear family members, parents, children, brothers, cousins, they all were left without flesh on their bones after so many years of hunger. But one thing no one could deny from them, the Jewish heart. And the Jewish heart whispers to them, there is life after the Holocaust in Eretz Israel. And masses of, I would say, survivors came out of the ashes and made the whole world understand, we want Eretz Israel. They moved towards the Mediterranean in effort to come to this land. And they stormed over every ship which can move and float to enable them to come to Eretz Israel. And at the end they saw in the horizon the territory of Israel, the land of Israel from afar. What an excitement! Come and look here. Eretz Israel is here. It's not anymore just in the prayers. It's going to be soon real. Our Eretz Israel, we're approaching to it. Eretz Israel of our dreams, of our prayers, of our lasting, of Jerusalem. We're going to be into it soon. We're approaching. And then they stood up and started singing Hatikva, Kol Od Balev, as long in the heart, deep in the heart, Balev Pnima, Nefesh Yehudi Omiyah. The Jewish hope is trembling, I would say. Soon we come, and Ein Tzion Sophia, which means looking towards Zion, towards Jerusalem, and then they are blocked by British military ships, and they heard loudspeakers threatening them. You penetrate to the territorial waters of Palestine illegally. We won't let you get in. We'll take you to exile somewhere, and every resistance will face our power. And some of them couldn't carry on, and they jumped to the seas. Others pushed the British troops, the soldiers, with their poor hands, and the British hit them with clubs, with their rifles, and wounded and even killed. Almost in every ship, Jews were killed by the British, Jews who survived the terrible Holocaust. But for what? Because they wanted to get to their own land after Europe proved to them that it doesn't want them in such a terrible way. This was the duty of the British Navy. And about the other troops, other British forces, they brought him here after every underground attack. More and more soldiers, more and more policemen. They came to a point that they numbered 100,000 troops. They covered the country. Wherever we moved before them, they've set military camps and police fortresses every step. And I already got a little older, and I got the word that I will be part of what they called the brigade, the fighting force. You have no idea how excited I was. Until then, such a long time. Every day I see those British cruel soldiers in my Yerushalayim. My friends fight them so bitterly. Now I also will carry arms and fight, and we attack them. We blew their traffic in the roads. We blew their trains. We and the Irgun blew all their police headquarters, and they rebuilt them, and they were blown again and again. And the Etzel boys managed to penetrate to military airfields, and they set afire 33 military aircrafts in one night. The British were so frightened that they moved their air force bases to Egypt. My friends managed to penetrate to the oil refineries in Haifa, and they set afire enormous quantity of oil and managed damage to the refineries. which caused them a lot of casualties also, and they lost a lot of their also
manpower,
financial, and the Etzel managed to blow King David Hotel, and most of the British officials who ruled the countries were killed there. And they didn't know how to deal with us. Everything they tried, it didn't help. Hundreds of the troops doesn't help them. They fortified themselves with enormous quantities of barbed wires and sandbags, and it did help them. We mocked at them. We knew we have a brain and we can use it, and we always can find tricks how to trick them and to blow and to attack. Whatever they tried, it did not help. Once in a while, but it wasn't easy. Once in a while, fighters get killed in the fighting. But we knew this is the way for freedom. There's no other way. Every one of us was ready to get into the fire and to fight. We didn't care about the result. We cared that the last result was we will be a free nation, and that was important for us. And they didn't know what to do. They catch underground fighters, they bring them to judgment, and those fighters know they can be sentenced to death. They didn't take any lawyer to help them, because they took the occasion to tell the British judges what they have in mind. Instead of feeling themselves accused, they accused the British. Because of you, so many Jews sunk in the seas, and because you blocked their way to life. What are you doing here? This is our country. You accuse me of carrying illegal arms. Every Jew has to carry arms and to fight against you. You are our bitter enemies, and we have to fight you until the last British will leave our country. Everyone the way, but we won't give up. And when they were sentenced to death, they wanted our nation to know for what they're going to give their lives. They stood up and sang Hatikva, to become a free nation in our land, the land of Zion and Yerushalayim. But we won't let it just that they hung our friends as prisoners. We have to retaliate. After the British hung 4 Etzel boys in Akko, I came to a meeting, there were 5 of us. Our commander came and he sent away 2 of us, and he told the rest, at 6 we were going to attack 2 British armored cars. From what you know, they patrol the road between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and they come back at 6. The entrance of Jerusalem, there was a building which wasn't yet completed. We will stand up, it was empty, we will stand up, once they will come, we will shoot at them and throw grenades. He brought with him 2 sacks. In one sack there were the hand grenades, in the other sack the guns. But he said it's all apart. We will have to get into a certain room to assemble the arms and load the guns. One thing we didn't know, that in the meantime the British imposed curfew on the whole city. In time of curfew, he will be outdoors, he'll be either arrested or shot. With the time we understood why they imposed this curfew. There are about 2 of my friends, Moshe Barazani, they caught him with a grenade in his pocket. how he was caught. A friend who was with him told me. He was on the other side of the street. He said he saw the British coming. He took the grenade he wanted to throw, but looked around. He saw a child playing, only that the child won't be hurt. He sacrificed his life, only that the child won't be hurt. He put back the grenade in his pocket and was sentenced to death. And the Etze boy, his name was Moshe Bardem, the Etze boy, Meir Feinstein, who was also a friend of mine since we were children. He was, they caught him wounded after an Etze attack, and he was also sentenced to death. The British were willing to hang them early in the morning, before sunlight, but they feared that in the meantime, our fighters managed to kidnap British hostages to prevent the hanging, like it happened in the past. That's why they imposed the curfew to force us stay indoors. But the curfew was so sudden that we didn't know that there already curfew. Once we started walking, it was a dark night. So through the dark, approached to us a group of British soldiers. We're sure they see us. What can we do? We saw on our left side a narrow street. We got into the street. Miraculously, they didn't see us. We started walking. Then we faced another one. Where we were moved, we faced either British soldiers or policemen. They either patrolled the streets or they sat in the corners. We trying to get away from this group. We felt approaching to another group. The only thing we could think about, the gallows, the rope of the gallows. But in the meantime, they don't see it, and we continue to walk a long way between them. At the end, we got into this house and we got into this room and we could breathe properly. How come that all this time, none of them saw us? Then I told my friends about my parents. Once they found, I couldn't hide it from what I'm doing all the time. But every time told them all kind of stories so they won't know that what I'm doing, but with the time they understood. And once they saw that I'm getting out and they know what's happening, they begged me, leave it. Why? You have to be with those people. You know it's so dangerous. You know how the British are strong, how they're cruel, until we managed to raise you. And for me, it wasn't easy. I tried to explain them that if we fight the British earlier, maybe we would have saved the Jews of Europe. And if we will wait, the Arabs will annihilate us. And they wanted to. So that we have to fight. You have to fight to establish a state, to have also an army against those Arabs. But their son is in danger. They couldn't take it. And it wasn't easy for me. I will never forget. Every time I went down the stairs where I got out for I heard behind me my mother whispering with tears dripping from her eyes. I said, praying to God, please God, save my child, let him go in peace and come in peace. And she added few words that till now it rings in my ears. And please blind his enemies so they won't see what he does. I want to tell you, this prayer for my mother was so well accepted in the skies. So many times my life was saved miraculously from death, from gallows. I was facing them and they didn't see me. or they searched and they didn't find what I was carrying. So many times, sometimes every day. This I told my friends, but the first thing we have to do is to prepare the arms. We assembled the bombs, we loaded the guns, and now it's everything ready for the action. Our commander said he has to get out nearby and he'll come back. There is time. Well, we don't ask questions, but it sounded strange. He went up and we waited, he doesn't come back. Time passes, it's already 6 o'clock, time of the action, it didn't come. The sunlight was already, and he didn't come. And then we heard noises on the outside. We looked through the window, but we saw masses of British soldiers and policemen jumping from the trucks and storming over the houses to search. Now we knew we were trapped. One of us stood up and started singing Hatikva. I told him, Chanukh, why is that? He said, sure, they'll come here, they found all those arms here, they'll sentence us to death. I want to sing Hatikva properly, to train to sing Hatikva properly. I told him, wait a minute, I have another idea. Why to let them hang us? You know, we have our arms ready. How about Samson's death? Let us die along with the Philistines. Once they will come, we'll shoot. They'll come more, we'll shoot until the end. True, we don't have a chance to survive, we're just 3 of us, but at least the enemy will pay a price on our life. My friend said, ready. One of us lied on the closet, I under the bed, and one stood behind the door. Once we come, we'll start shooting. They won't see us right away, and they start shooting. All of them will come, continue, shoot until the end. You can imagine the tension in such a situation. I never imagined in my lifetime how every different organs get in my body get such great meanings like I felt at this time. Looking at the finger caressing the trigger, I thought this is the most important organ Kadosh Baruch Hu gave me. So soon this finger will pull the trigger and will have them pay the price for our lives. And the ears heard them approaching, and every step they came closer, it made the heart beat faster and harder, more as if it was an engine of a big machine. But one thing I hoped so much, that once they come to the house where we were staying, that we come straight to our room. It wasn't easy to keep in such a tension for a long time. And then we heard them getting in the corridor and climbing out the stairs, going downstairs. We knew now they're first searching in our building, and suddenly we hear hard knocks on a door close to our door, and shouting, "Open the door right away, or we'll start, we'll open fire." And we heard what's going there in this room, how they got in, and they cursed and searched, and they moved the closet and the table and everything, and they turned mattresses and opened drawers and knocked on the floor, on the wall, to search for arms, and soon they will come to us. And at this time, all kinds of memories from which I achieved in my time came to my mind, what I managed, what I didn't manage, what I wished to, and the more I thought, the more I was, my body was so excited, until the whole body trembled from excitement, and I thought, how shall I calm myself from the situation? I know what we have to do. Once they come, we will shoot, and that's it. But it didn't help. Then came to I visualized the faces of my mother, my father, my brothers, my sister. How will they get the news? It wasn't easy. I felt a kind of pain in my heart. But when I looked at my friend, I said, well, I'm not better than my friends who were killed. But when I looked at my two friends, I glanced at them, and this was very difficult for me. Two of my best friends, everyone came from a different part of our nation. Hanoch came for a Haredi family in Mea Shearim. Shaul came from the Kurdish quarter in Jerusalem. Everyone from different, what made them come here to be almost going to be killed? This was difficult for me. What the only thing I could say, I whispered Shema Israel. And then we heard them getting out of this room, coming close to our room. Now we're ready. And right then, when they are about to break into our room, we heard someone getting in from the outside and talking with them. Another British talking with them. And they spoke and spoke behind our door. We heard them speaking, and we were already wanting to finish. Come in and let us finish, and stop talking there. And my finger became nervous. It was to pull the trigger and looking at the door to open it. And then we heard them stepping out, getting out of the outdoor. This was strange. I started to understand it. I said, oh my God, maybe this guy got in, called them for breakfast because this was the time. Now we'll have to wait till they finish eating. But what can we do? And then suddenly we've heard noises of children shouting, screaming. You know how children play loudly. This sounded strange. How come the parents let them get out in such a so danger? Then I heard more voices of people outside, and then I understood. I told my friend, listen, I have the feeling that the British left. We continued to listen. We heard also that their traffic was getting further and further. We understood they left. It took time till we could breathe properly. One of us said, I'll get out to see what's going on. We went out. After a while, he came back with two kind of news. One was that the British searched everywhere. There were places that they turned everything. There were places that they broke walls. The only very place they did search was our room. Before we were so happy that our life was saved miraculously, he said the other words, the other news. They heard on the radio. My two friends, Moshe Barzani and Meir Feinstein, blew themselves to death in the Jerusalem prison right before the British were about to hang them. With them, we'll find out how it was possible. Their friends in the prison, Lehi prisoners, found a way to contact them. They asked the British guards, please, we have a piece of cake, some fruit, please handle them to our friends in the cell. And they handled. It wasn't against the instructions. But he didn't know that in this food, they corresponded. They wrote, to encouragement, they wrote notes in pieces of paper, and they turned them and they pushed into the food. And the two boys, they open the cake, they find this message, and they answer, we know we're going to give our lives for the sake of our freedom. We are ready. We shouldn't be sorry. We should tell our parents to be happy that they brought us for such a mission for our sake of our people, that they shouldn't be sorry. Give our regards to the Jewish nation, to the future generations. Here I'm giving you, and why corresponding, they didn't stop thinking, what else can we do until we give our lives? And they wrote to their friends, maybe you can find a way to smuggle us bombs. So once they will come to hang us, we'll blow ourselves along with the British, like Shimshon, Samson, blew himself, die along with the Philistines. And those who, it's most not just a British guy who activates the gallows. The whole commanders of the police forces, of the army forces, and the judges who sentence them, they come to enjoy how they are going to hang Jews. They won't have they will be blown along with us. And this, their friends were ready to find a way. They took 2 oranges. They managed to get a small amount of explosive that was smuggled to them from the outside in food, and they formed 2 bombs in 2 oranges. And this British guy, he didn't know that he handled them on the tray, not only fruit, also 2 orange bombs. And they got the oranges and they wrote to their friends, thank you for this important gift you're giving us. We hope to use it properly. But they found out, I don't have time to tell you how, you can read in my book, they found out that the Jewish rabbi will be present when they hung them. They gave up the idea of running ourselves along with the Philistines, with the British, just for that only the Jewish rabbi won't get hurt. But we have the bombs. And they decided, if anyway we're going to be killed, why to let the British enjoy hanging us on the gallows? We will mock at them, and we will save Jerusalem from the violation of the Kedusha of Jerusalem by hanging Jews, because until then they hung in Akko. And they hugged and they brought the bombs between both hearts and activated them. The bombs flew, the hearts were torn and the blood joined because they were hung, and we couldn't separate between Moshe Bar Azani's blood and the of his heart and the blood of the heart of Meir Feinstein. It was 1 year before the establishment of the Jewish state in Ole Bet Be'ar 40 in Zayin 47. But we have to make the British pay price for sentencing our friends to death. Next morning, my friends managed to blow a train full of British soldiers. After a while, and we know this is not enough. After a while, I meet what we call Uzi Ajinji, Red Uzi. He was one of the most daring fighters we had. He said, we were planning to kill the British Commander-in-Chief of the Army, General Macmillan. He signed this, the OK for the hanging. So he also should be killed as well. We know that he drives once in a while from his mansion in Jerusalem to different places, to camps all over the country, and comes back after a few hours. The Jerusalem-Tel Aviv road was at that time very narrow with a lot of curves. There was such a curve near Givat Shaul quarter. From one side it goes down, from the other side there's a mountain. What we call today is the cemetery, the Haram al-Khot. Once he came there, he had, like every car, to slow meaningfully to get through there. There we will wait for him. Uzi will press an electrical button which will activate a mine to hit his car and throw it into down. And my assignment was to throw grenades on 2 jeeps loaded with machine guns. We knew, yes, Kante, we know he left Jerusalem, he's on his way back. We waited for him. We knew he has to pass in a few hours. 2, 3, 4 hours already passed, and the nerves was very much, I would say, stretched in tension. Every minute it has to come, and we suddenly saw something strange in the road. Then we found the British discovered the bomb, and they stopped the traffic. We understood that after such a thing, they would come in many troops to search for us. We buried our arms in a cave there, so once we come to the city, we'll be about to be searched, so they want to know our part in this. But we started going down the hill. Hop! Hundreds of British troops were approaching to us. Looking back, we were trapped. We were surrounded. And the only between us and them, there was a street in the right side, a narrow street in the right side in Givat Shaul. How shall we get there when they're coming towards us? In the meantime, all the British looked down at dogs. They brought with them dogs to smell our trace, and they looked at them and walked behind them. Uzi whispered to me, "We'll go towards this street. We have to be careful, maybe not to make any noise until we try to get there. There isn't much chance, but that's the only chance we can find it." And we were walking, and we had to be careful not to slide, to make any noise, and make with the stones or something. And they approached us, and we approached them, just to get. Don't have. And all this time already, one of them will raise his head, will see us, we start running. Not yet, not yet. And distance between us came closer and closer, and closer and closer. It's strange that till now they didn't see us at every minute. And they're still watching the dogs and going behind them. And until we faced them, the distance was about from the wall, we got into the street, and now they don't see us. And we ran, I would say we flew. In a few seconds, we managed to go through Kiryat Shaul, Kiryat Moshe, and we got to the city. I never imagined that I can run so fast. But we were so happy how our lives were saved, as we were so sorry that we didn't manage to make the action. And this time we were so upset that, especially in Jerusalem, especially in actions that I was about to take part, there were such trouble. They either search or the general which we were about to kill did not arrive, or so on, until we found the reason. I told you there were Jews who helped the British. They managed to plant into our group a spy, and he informed his friends, and they informed the British about actions that we are about to carry, and also it caused death of some of our boys, like Moshe Barazani, who grew himself with Moshe Feinstein. The British themselves said that they managed to catch him thanks to information they got from Jews. Can you imagine? David is going to kill Goliath, and his brothers push a knife in his back. That's how we felt. But still, we were angry at them. We told them traitors, and more than that. But we threatened them. But we knew we will not use arms against Jews, as bad as they are. We want freedom, and those who deny our freedom are the British, and we have to fight the British. And we fought them, and we attacked them again and again, and they couldn't understand how come. 100,000 Jews did not help. All their fortifications with the barbed wires and sandbags couldn't stand on our way to glory. Help from Jews, it helps them a lot, but it's not enough. So how come we managed to attack them so badly? And they knew that we were very few. And most of us, about 80% of us, could not fight because they were jailed in jails and in detention camps. So those who were free to attack were very, very few, and we managed to attack them. So they thought, how is it possible? Then they thought, maybe in one thing we're better, that we can see them and they can't see us, because we didn't have uniforms, we didn't carry arms just like that, only for carrying attacks. How will they find us? There's a wall of secrecy which defends us. How will they break this wall? They thought there can be one way. They'll catch one of us and they'll torture him. And then one day I heard that my best friend was arrested. He was younger than me. I'm so sorry, because he was such a nice fighter, and I admired him. But he was arrested. The British denied that they arrested him. But people saw that a British caught him, and he struggled, and then suddenly came two cars from them, more British jumped from the cars, and they caught him, and they pushed him into a car and kidnapped him. And one more thing they see, during his struggle, the hat of this British fell from his head. This hat fell into our hands, and there we saw the name of the British, Farhan. Then we found out that Farhan was a British officer who commanded the toughest troops in the British Commando, the SAS. They brought them specially here to commit such things. But when they found that we know his name, he was smuggled out of the country. They knew we'll look for him and we'll kill him. We know, we have to admire, if we know what our great heroes said before they were killed. I mentioned Samson, who said, "Let my life go, die along with these Philistines." We have to remember Roy Klein. He saw a grenade was going to blow between his soldiers. He ran there to save their lives, and he lied on the bomb and gave his life while whispering Shema Israel. Our fighters were hung on the gallows singing Hatikva, to become a free nation in our land, the land of Jerusalem and Zion and Jerusalem. We don't know what my good friend told them when he was tortured, but in his case we know something much more important of what he could say. It's what he didn't say. A few years ago, he published a book written by a British historian, David Cesarani. The name of the book is Major Farhan's Hat. In this book, he described how came the end of the British rule in this country. And he also, in this book, he points on what happened to my friend was one of the causes. And this Farhan was smuggled out of the country. He came to East England. He has friends there. They made for him parties. They sent him gifts. And one day, his brothers come home. He says, "This is a nice gift." And it was written there, Shakespeare plays. From curiosity, he opened the gift and it blew in his face, and then happened a drama that even Shakespeare could not dream in his mind that will be a drama from his writings. He was badly wounded when the most known question in Shakespeare plays appeared, to be or not to be. He got the answer, he died. And this way, this Major Farhan had, we didn't have in mind killing his brother, but Farhan had saw the price he pays, how his younger brother was killed in torture because he was wounded badly to death for what he did to my best friend. And as I said, and in this book, Cesarani describes what they did to my friend. They tied him with ropes all over his body. They hit him with clubs, heavy clubs, you know, and told him, "Oh, tell us your friends' names. Where you meet, where you hide arms, or we'll break your head." He won't tell them. They cut his chest with knives for the sake of my friends, for the sake of our freedom of my people. He won't get more for me one word. They burned his body, his flesh with burning cigarettes. And he won't tell them. More than an hour of terrible suffering. And they didn't get from him one word from what they wanted to get from him until this murder Major Farhan took a rock, hit him on his head, and broke his skull. And this way, my best friend gave his life, the hero of heroes, I call him, because the way he stood up against the enemies and won't tell them one word. And the British understood. With such eager fighters that we have, they had no chance to continue to rule here. And with few more attacks, they decided to leave the country, to evacuate. They told the United Nations that they are about to evacuate, but they said, true, we will get out of Palestine, but there won't be a Jewish state. There'll be a chaos. With time, we understood what they meant. They know what the Arabs were about to do to us. They'll help them. They gave themselves about 7 months time for forming their evacuation, because you can evacuate hundreds of the troops or all the installations in one day. They get themselves, and during this time, they had in mind to help the Arabs to get to us and to deny from us this state and our lives even. The United Nations appointed a committee for inquiry committee to find what a solution to suggest. There are Jews, there are Arabs in this country. They invited the leader of the Jews to ask them what you have in mind should be the solution. We, Lehi, we know what we want. This is our country, all of it is ours, and it should become a free Jewish state. That is the reason we fought. But our political leaders, who never believed that the British will ever leave, that they caused us so much trouble by inciting against us, by turning the people against us, they told them, yes, they're going. They said they're about to leave. Suggest us what you have in mind. They said, well, we are Zionists, and it's natural that we want a Jewish state. But the Arabs won't agree, and we don't want any trouble with the Arabs. So what you'll do is that, you know what, let us divide this land between us and the Arabs, so we will have a state, and the Arabs will have a state, and that will solve the problem. They asked the Arabs, what do you suggest? The Arabs spoke to the United States and said, who are you to decide for us? They boycotted the committee. What they say, what they need a state. The whole Middle East and North Africa is full of Arab states. What they had in mind, they wrote openly in the papers. They shouted loudly from the minarets that they want to annihilate us. They had such slogans like, now comes the time where we will continue where Hitler stopped. It's been only 2 years, 1947, 2 years after the terrible Holocaust, they want to continue with the Jews here. But the Jews did not believe. Why? Because our leadership and the paper said, there won't be a problem, all we have to do is to talk to the Arabs, to explain to them that they have a chance of having a state in this country and so. And that's why, once in the United Nations, a place that called Lake Success, the nations assembled, and the majority decided in favoring of the division, to divide this country between us and the Arabs. And right after that, masses of Jews went to the streets dancing the whole night. We're going to have a Jewish state after 2,000 years. What a what a great news from what a success from late success. Let us dance. And I and my friends were sad. We who were the first ones who said that we'll end up by having a Jewish state, when others did not believe. Now the others dance and we are sad. What? What do you see in the United States decisions? Most of the country will be part of an Arab state. Well, they decided. And can you imagine? Not only Judea and Samaria, which in my opinion belongs to us, even not the Galil, the Western Galil, even not Jaffa, Lod, Ramle, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Beersheba, Kiryat Gat, Dimona, Arad, Bet Shemesh, Kiryat Malachi, all those places will be part of the Arab state, and with dancing, what will be left for us? Tel Aviv, a ghetto, for that you dancing, and not only that, even Jerusalem won't be part of the Jewish state. Our Yerushalayim, the Yerushalayim of our prayers, our dreams, our lasting, that so many of our great heroes gave their lives for the sake of Yerushalayim, the Maccabees and the others, that our people never stopped swearing, if I forget the Yerushalayim, and now they forget Yerushalayim and they're dancing, and at this time there were 100,000 Jews in this city. We who fought the British more than any other city, we don't have the privilege to be part of the Jewish state. How do you dare? Jerusalem, of our greatest fighters, Alexander Lubovitch was tortured to death. Jerusalem of Moshe Barazani and Meir Feinstein, of Meir Nakar and Avshalom Chaviv, who were hung on the gallows while singing to be a free nation in our state, in our land, the land of Yerushalayim and Zion. We couldn't take it. But right next morning, we found that from all what the the United Nations decided, we didn't get even 1 grain of earth. Nothing we got from this decision. Soon we found that if we want something in our country, what we won't get with our own hands, we won't have. But when the enemies threat to kill us, they were serious. They meant it. And right next morning, we found ourselves getting killed all over the country. They stormed over the roads and murdered the passengers with stones, with shooting, with all kind of, and Jerusalem, a city with Arab, Jewish neighborhoods, neighboring Arab neighborhoods, through their windows, through the roofs, they pointed their rifles and shot and killed and wounded and killed and wounded. What can we do? The Haganah set some of their boys in different points for defense, and they told them, if you see from where the Arabs shoot back. But we don't want any trouble with the British. If they will come to search, even give them the arms, only so we won't have to confront them. The British were still here. They had about a half a year of time to evacuate. They see Jews defending themselves. They have their great army here still. They surrounded them. They took the arms from the Jews. They handed them to Arabs, and this way, our neighborhood, they left our neighborhoods in the mercy of the Arab rifles. But we, Lehi, were the smallest fighting group in Yerushalayim, but most eager to fight than any other. And people join us, and we have so many enemies now. The Arabs killing Jews, the British help them. We need more arms. I was asked with a few of my friends, to patrol the roads, and if we will face British carrying guns, to threat them with pistols and to take their guns. If they resist, to shoot. Each of us got a pistol, and I also was assigned to defend my friends after the retreatment. That's why I got also 2 bombs, a grenade, and a small bomb, which was about half of the size of a finger, which when it blows, it doesn't hurt much, but it makes big noise, like a big bomb. Why? If I see British, I will throw them when they after us. I have to throw the bomb. But before then, to look around well, to be sure that there are not Jewish passerbys. If I will see a Jew around, I won't throw the bomb, so I'll throw the small bomb. It will make noise like a big bomb, and maybe this can threaten them, and they will fall to save themselves, and we can run away. I don't know why. Anyway, my left hand is faster than my right hand. That's why I used to draw the pistol with my left hand. I put the big bomb in my left pocket and the small one in my right pocket, like I do it usually. But this time I felt something is bothering in my pockets, as if someone is whispering to me, you didn't put the bombs in the right place. And all the time it bothers me, and I can't understand what. So I said, what can happen? I turned the places, I took the big bomb and put it in my right pocket and the small one in the left pocket. Let it be that way. So what? We started walking. We faced 2 British policemen carrying Tommy guns. The Tommy guns were the best guns at this time, automatic gun. I told my friend, we need those weapons. Let's get to them. But when we approached, they must have heard our steps. They turned their arm towards us. One of us drew his pistol and told them, hands up! And I came to my pistol. I felt I couldn't move my hand anymore, and I felt dizzy all over my body. I understood something's happened to me. What, I don't know. And I saw one of the British run into a narrow street to the left. 2 of my friends were after him. The other one, I saw my friend try to get from him his gun, and they struggled as if you see, like if you see in the movies. Each one pulls the gun, and I fear that the British will manage to kill my friend. I can save my friend's life if I will manage to move my hand and to draw the pistol and shoot at the British. But I couldn't understand why I'm paralyzed. My hands are paralyzed that I can't move them. And I didn't know. My friend was already hurt in his lung by a bullet. But he held the gun so tightly that the British at the end gave up, started running, and they approached to the corner, and I thought this is my only chance to shoot at him if I manage to get the gun. Otherwise, he turned right and he called for help and we'll be in trouble. Right in this very second, I managed to draw the gun and pistol and shot at him a shot, and he fell killed. I saw him dead. I started running. I felt I don't run properly. I was limping. I thought, what's happening to me? Before I couldn't move my hand. Now I can't run. Maybe I'm wounded. When I asked myself, maybe I'm wounded, I felt pain in my left thigh. Then I found that the bullet passed through the thigh and through my pocket. Once I saw where the bullet passed, I said, my God, what a miracle that. Before then, I moved the big bomb from the left pocket to the right one. If it would have stayed in the left pocket, it would have blown from the bullet and killed me and my friends. I understand. But I have to run away. as fast as possible before they come to pick, and it was difficult for me. So the British would come. Then few Jews saw me limping, they heard the shooting, they asked, can we help you? I said, yes, if you can manage to get someone with a car to drive me for treatment. Thank God they managed to get a taxi driver who was ready to help, as we say, call a kabod. I got in, we started driving, and the British arrived. They blocked the way, and I found myself surrounded. And what I could see ahead of me, every car getting to this barrier, the British took out the passenger, they searched the car, they searched on everyone's body and in their pockets, and on my body, in my pockets, there's a pistol, there's a bomb, and another bomb, and a wound. And soon, when my turn came, what could I do? I whispered to my Israel. And suddenly they shouted at us, "What are you doing here? What, don't you see that we're on duty and you don't..." At first, I didn't understand why they're shouting that. "Don't you see we're on duty and you're still here? Why don't you drive away? Get out of here, move on!" And I heard that, I understood that the driver doesn't understand English. I told him, they tell you, get away from here. And he was in shock. I had to pinch him to tell him. At the end, he pressed the pedal, and they were the only ones they didn't search. But the situation came badly with the Arabs. They managed to kill many Jews, and we fought them. We penetrated into their neighborhoods and blew houses, and it helped a lot, but not enough. And then the Arabs managed to get hold of cannons, and they bombarded the city. It was terrible to see all over wounded and killed people in the streets, and among them friends of mine, or from my neighborhood, or from other places. It was terrible. Until at the end, my commanders contacted the Etzel commanders. They told them, we have to carry a very, very strong action to save our lives. Otherwise we lost. How about carrying a joint attack? The Etzel agreed, and came the decision that with a joint attack we'll get to conquer the village of Deir Yassin in near Jerusalem. And then we went to fight there. I don't have much time to tell you because I don't want to. It's a long story how we fought so bitterly over this village. At first we used loudspeakers. We wanted to warn them not that you don't want to kill women and children, but it would break them up, and we lost the surprise, and that's why it was a very bitter fight. It long the whole day, and during the fight of Deir Yassin, we faced Arab women shooting at us. The commander of the fighters was badly wounded by bullets from an Arab woman, and there were men who were dressed like women and shot at us as well, so that when they approached, after they started shooting, I understood they are men, so the fighting it wasn't easy. The result was we lost 5 casualties of dead and 42 wounded. Half of our forces were hurt, but we caught a lot of casualties because the fight was very bitter. They shoot from every window, from every terrace, from their roofs, from everywhere. That's why we had to kill them so much. But we found where we are. You could see now the neighborhood of Givat Shaul, Kiryat Moshe, the road to Tel Aviv. Before then they were here and they shot there and they killed Jews. Now we are there instead. But what the most important that Deir Yassin separated between the Castle Hill and the Arab villages. Until then, there were very bitter fighting over the castle, because without the castle, we lose the chance to save Jerusalem from hunger and to put an end to the siege. We needed badly the castle, and now that the thing is in our hand, the castle is in our hands, we save Jerusalem from hunger. That's we knew. But we didn't know that we not only saved Jerusalem from hunger by the liberating of Deir Yassin, that we defeated actually the Arabs in the country. Because after that, when the word in the Arab villages everywhere came that Jews conquered Deir Yassin and caused them a lot of casualties. How come? They know they have the only privilege to kill Jews. What happened there? But when they found who were the fighters who conquered Deir Yassin, the Etzel boys who managed to blow the King David Hotel, to break the Akko prison walls, and we, Lehi, what they said, would terrorize the British in their fighting, now they joined together to retaliate to what we did to them. They start to become frightened. But the great fright was not from what we made, from the rumors. Their leaders didn't know how to explain the defeat, the Arab defeat in Deir Yassin, because until then, all the time they said, oh, thought we're going to put an end to Jews, to lead the Jewish sheep to the slaughterhouse, and to continue what Hitler stopped, and to commit to the women what we want, and to do and to take their houses. And what will they say now? They said the Jews are so cruel. They committed terrible atrocities in Deir Yassin. They so savagely, they murder, they rape, and all the things that we never dreamt of doing. During the fight, you have to shoot and to kill, that's true, but not to commit such crimes. But they believe their own lies because they are such people. And in their villages, everywhere they are, every Arab wants to show that he knows something. He said to others, did you hear what the Jews did to us in Deir Yassin? How they murder, how they made such terrible things, and all the rape, and they frightened each other, and the result was that they started running away everywhere the Jews approached, from the fear of their own lives. And this way, in the first battles, the Arabs evacuated Haifa. They fled from Safed, from Tiberias, from Akko. And the Arabs claimed that 1 million Arabs fled from this country, what they call the Arab refugees problem, because of the fear they had after they heard what we did in Deir Yassin. Where they didn't escape from were from places that the British separated between us and them, especially Jerusalem. Behind the back of the British, they don't run away. The attack on Deir Yassin took place in April 9, 1948. After 1 month approaches the day of the end of the British rule in this country. And then we hear that the British already evacuated the Russian compound. The Russian compound was not just a place. It was the center of their rule. There was the police headquarters, which was blown twice by the underground. their courts, their central prison, where they detained the boys who were sentenced to death. If in every place they were camped, they're surrounded by quantities of barbed wires and sandbags. The Russian compound was fortified with a sea of barbed wires, hills of sandbags. To understand what I mean, you can see after my lecture, two pictures in this book of mine. I have it also in English. Two pictures which show how it looked at that time. People called this place Bevingrad, the Stalingrad of the British former foreign minister Ernst Bevin. And they evacuated Bevingrad. Once we heard that, the first thing we thought about the old city, because the Russian compound separated between Jerusalem, which was in our hands, and the old city of Jerusalem. We contacted the other organization, told them, let us make a joint attack and liberating our Yerushalayim. Unfortunately, I don't know what were the reasons, their excuses, they weren't ready to come with us. They have different plans, they said. Well, we alone cannot manage to. We don't have enough arms and fighters for such an action. But we can't give up. Yerushalayim is waiting for us for 2,000 years. We decided we do what we can. We move forward towards the old city, we conquer what we can, as much as we can approach to the old city, and then we see what's on. We got into the Russian compound, we were stunned to see Russian compound without British. That was a tremendous change, and we are there like masters of the place, not as prisoners. What a privilege. We who were the first ones that we said the British will end up by running away from our country. And we made it in our eyes, even this place. But there's no time for excitement. Yerushalayim is waiting for us. We got into an extreme building in Russian compounds, and we were stunned to see how it was fortified by the British before. The windows, the doors were covered with concrete, with barbed wires, with sandbags and what not. And there were also those holes for shooting points. And we set our rifles, and wherever we saw how the Arabs are there, they are around, we shot at them. Then we were told to stop shooting. Why? He told us, listen, we are about to start an attack at sunshine to conquer the buildings which are between us and the old city. We suppose that there'll be a long fight, and we fear that all our ammunition won't be enough. We have to make efforts not to run out of ammunition. So we stopped shooting, and suddenly the rings of the silence of the night was violated by the bells of the churches around, which rang more and more with tremendous voice. That sounded strange. This time, I told a friend who was sitting beside me, Giora, do you know what I think? To whom the bells ring? What's the time? He looked at his watch and said, 12, midnight. I said, this is the very minute of the hour, the great minute of our Jewish history. From this minute and on, the British starts from this moment, 15 May 1948 start. From this very minute comes the end of the British rule in our country. From this very minute, the Jewish nation starts its first freedom steps in history after 2,000 years. I was so excited. I felt tremendous need to express my feeling. To remember this very minute, what shall I do? I took a grenade and threw it towards the wall. Boom! The grenade blew, and the Arabs from the other side thought we start a night fight. And they shoot at our building, enormous amount of ammunition. We know all the ammunition will either be blocked by the stones or stuck in the sandbags. It took a long time till they stopped shooting. But actually, until now, you can see the signs. If you be in Sahel Square in Jerusalem, you can see this round building. Look up and you see the signs of the bullets from that night. Early in the morning, I was called with another fighter, and they made each of us, some boys, to join us, to be into our command, and we were told we were the first ones who will start attacking to liberate the buildings near the old city wall. Gershon will go to liberate, to conquer the fast hotel, and I will take my boys to hold the post office building, the old post office building. We knew now we're getting into the fire. And really, when we got to this square, which is called Sahel Square, found ourselves under fire from different directions. I got to the gate of the building, we found it locked. And being under the fire of our enemy, we had to wait a while until from the other side they brought to us a small bomb that we hung on the locket. It blew and it opened the gate apart, and I told before that I told my fighters, we should do every effort not to let them surprise us. Every room you approach, you have to cover with fire. This way we conquer the building, we get hold of the building. This way also we killed the Arabs which were there. And I asked my friend, I hope that everyone is all right, that we don't have anyone hurt. I saw the face of one of our fighters looking at me, smiling at me with one eye bleeding. I told him, Michael, you got hurt in your eye and you're quiet and you don't say, you're silent and you're smiling at me. I'll call for a stretcher to carry you for treatment. He said, Elnakam, leave me alone. I want to continue on. I can point the gun with my other eye. Don't worry. And he got to the window to watch. And then I used my throat to tell to my friends on the other side that the old city, the old post office building is in our hands. Then I heard another building. This way we got hold of a block of buildings which separated between us and the old city. It was not an easy fight. And then suddenly we hear someone shouting at me from the other side, Elnakam, tell your fighters there. We got told, people heard on the radio. Yesterday, Ben-Gurion declared the establishment of the Jewish state. The state of Israel was established, was declared. When I heard that, it made me feel good, but I'm in the middle of fighting, and from my window I can see the old city wall, and behind the wall, the place of the kingdom of David, the mountain of God. Let us get there before, if we already have a free state. But we could continue on. 4 of us were killed during this action, 3 boys and a girl. Most were badly wounded. We were left very few, and we ran out of ammunition. Without ammunition, even the greatest fighter cannot shoot, and you have to stop. We stopped, but we didn't give up. With the time, after days, weeks, we managed to get hold of more arms, more ammunition. More boys joined with us, until after a short while, we were ready to another fighting. After 2 months, we got the word that there is an agreement between us and the Haganah and the Edsel. Tonight, the whole forces will start attacking to liberate the old city. Every organization will attack from a different side, 0 hour at 11 at night. You have no idea how excited we were. We couldn't feel the earth under our feet. We felt as we were flying in a cloud of joy. We're going to liberate the old city. When we formed, after the afternoon, after we got the arms and the instructions, we heard the commander of Lehi in Jerusalem gave us a fighting speech, and he said, "Fighters, for so many generations, our poor nation didn't stop praying, lasting, dreaming to achieve what we are going to do this very night, to liberate our Yerushalayim, our most important, most places, holy places, which were for 2,000 years under strangers' hands. Now we're going to be tonight, this night. When I heard that, I felt, in what am I so privileged for such a thing? I, myself, and we disbanded to climb to the trucks. Suddenly happened something which touched us tremendously. Neighboring our camp was an institution for orphans. Most of them children, which were found in Europe after the Holocaust. They discovered them in monasteries. They found them in strange places, in going places, and they picked them one by one and brought them to this place. They were left without any family members. All the family members were taken to the crematoriums. They brought them there. And we were so concentrated in our excitement that we didn't notice them. But they've heard everything, and suddenly they shouted to us, "Hatzlichu! Hatzlichu! Lechu b'shalom, b'shuvu b'shalom!" Which means, we wish you success, go in peace and come back in peace. I want to tell you, if until then, my excitement was so great, because all the time I thought about our past that is waiting for us for 2,000 years of prayers, dreaming, lasting. Those children, with one sentence, they taught me a lesson that I didn't learn during my lifetime. Not only our past is waiting for us, also our future is waiting for us. Those children, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, survived the Holocaust of Hitler, to wish us success for their sake, for the sake of our future. If until then, I'm excited so much, and still then it multiplied itself so much that I felt I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to get crazy. I felt so that my head is going to blow. I said, God, let me take part in the fighting, and after that, I don't care what will happen to me. We got to the front. Then we got the word that the sappers are on the way to blow the wall. Get ready. We sat in a place where behind us was a Christian monastery. It was close to the old city wall, but we could see what happens in Jerusalem, which is in our hands ahead. It was a dark night, but we could see how the enemy bombards Jerusalem, which is in our hands. Through the dark, we could see the lashes of fire of the bombs, and we could hear the noise of the bombing, and they could see and hear the bombs blowing closer and closer to where we sat. I told my friends, listen, every moment we can get hurt. The bombs are blowing already the road ahead of us. Let us pull down the helmets to defend as much as we can our heads from the bombs. We all pulled down the helmets, and right after that, I felt a tremendous push in my head, and a stream of blood poured out from the depths of my head from above my right eye. It appeared that a bomb blew beside me, as if it wanted to tell me, if I want to get to your head, I'll find my way. A piece of the bomb penetrated from under the helmet, above the eye, deep into my head. I stood up to ask for help. I felt all my body in pain. I understood that all my body, or almost all my body, was hurt from pieces of the bomb. But once I stood up, but the worst was my head. But once I stood up, something upset me. I heard someone groaning. Someone said, I thought, wait a minute. Why am I running to get help? How about my friends? Maybe there are others wounded in bad situation. In what am I better than my friends? I decided I will wait. Two, I wanted to live. And the pain was lasting for her, but not on the account of my friends. And I sat back and waited. If there are others wounded, let them get help before. The nurse stood up and she asked, who's wounded here? She turned, because of the dark, she couldn't see my face, what was going in my face. I waited to see if others will answer. No one stood up, no one answered. And I stood up and she helped me crossing the street. In a certain distance from us, there was a place from the other side of the street which was arranged for first aid. And all this time, I knew my right eye got blinded. The left eye wasn't hurt, but because of tremendous pain, I couldn't even try to open my good eye. But I couldn't see what's going on, but I could hear how the bombs are growing around us, and in my heart I prayed for the sake of Drora. This poor girl wants to save my life. She can get killed because of me. Anyway, we arrived. She made me sit on a chair, and I'm waiting to get treated. The pain came to the, I would say, reached the skies. And I heard someone asking, who's he? I wasn't surprised that he did not recognize me, because all my face and my head was a fountain of blood. I thought, if I tell him that it's me and Lacan, it will hurt him. We're good friends. So maybe I'll tell him, don't be sorry. After all, if for the sake of Yerushalayim. But when I came to say that, I remember time passes and we did not get into Yerushalayim. yet. So I told him, leave that now. Tell me, why don't we get already into the old city? What are we waiting for? Before I got his answer, we heard a blow, and right after that, I heard someone shouting, "Hachoma nifretza." The wall was blown. Once I heard this, the wall, it's not just a wall which separated between the old and the new city of Yerushalayim. It was a wall who stood on our way to our Yerushalayim for 2,000 years. It was a wall which separated between us and the place of King David. It separated between us and the mountain of God. And now it's blown. What it means? It means we are getting back! I felt I was caressing the skies from joy. My head with unbelievable pain, and my heart joy. We are getting back to our Yerushalayim. Only I told my friends, I'm sorry I can't go along with you in this great night. I wish you kadima, go forward to our Yerushalayim, and let God be with you. They carried me on a stretcher. They had to bring me to the ambulance, and on the